Michael, thank you so much indeed for your time. In fact, we knew, didn't we, that Israel was rejecting this ICC probe when Fatou Bensouda of the court said, I'm starting this investigation. Benjamin Netanyahu said the court is basically anti-Semitic. But what does it mean for the court that Israel is not going to cooperate?
Well, it means that any defense that Israel would wind up presenting to the court and presenting to the prosecutor is not going to be available. That won't stop the court from being able to investigate the 2014 war in Gaza, its impact upon Palestinians living in Gaza. It won't stop the court from looking at the 2018 shootings along the Gaza frontier, where 200 protesters were killed and thousands were wounded by Israeli snipers. It won't stop the court from being able to look at the issue of the settlements and whether or not they comply with the Rome Statute prohibition against civilian settlements in occupied territory. So, yes, it's a dent. But no, I don't think that the court or the prosecutor will be stalled in trying to gather significant evidence with respect to their formal investigation.
Israel has always said that it carries out its own investigations into whatever alleged misdeeds are supposed to have happened. I'll come back to one particular case in 2018, as you mentioned, during those protests. But in terms of Israel's own investigations, do they stand up to international scrutiny?
Certainly human rights organizations, both regional and international, that have examined the Israeli investigations into either the wars that it's been involved in or some of its own internal military administration of the occupied territory, have been very critical of the huge gaps in the investigation process by Israel. I can look and tell you about the report done in 2014 for the United Nations, which said that impunity prevails across the board for violations of international humanitarian law and international human rights law allegedly committed by Israeli forces. Israel must break with its recent lamentable track record in holding wrongdoers accountable. There are several other reports that have been issued over the last decade by the Human Rights Council as well, which have come to the same conclusion that there's a justice crisis existing in Israel with respect to its administration of the occupation.
So those protests in 2018, I was speaking to Naftali Bennett, who has just stood in the Israeli elections, and I quoted one particular incident to him, and it was a well-known incident. It was that Palestinian nurse who was shot dead, and she was there to attend to protesters who were being shot at by Israeli soldiers. There were so many people there. There must have been so many witnesses to that one particular event, because Mr. Bennett was saying, no, all Israeli soldiers are innocent. I said, what, even in this case, when an unarmed nurse is hit and killed by an Israeli bullet? And he said, yes, they're all innocent. Obviously, he was campaigning to become potentially prime minister, so he was speaking to his domestic audience. But when there are so many witnesses, how does Israel defend itself in terms of any investigation?
Well, the answer may be as one of the reasons why they decided not to cooperate with the ICC prosecutors' formal investigation. It may also help explain why Israel did not sign and ratify the Rome Statute after 1998, when it was adopted by the international community, because it knew that it would be under scrutiny for its way in which it's administering the occupation. Keep in mind that there are probably about at least four different features of the occupation that are likely to be under the scrutiny of the prosecutor. The 2014 war in Gaza, the 2018 shootings along the Gaza fence, the Israeli settlements, which is a national state project, and the annexation of East Jerusalem, which was added to the Rome Statute in 2010 as part of the definitions of crimes of aggression. So all of these mean that Israel would have a steep explanation to be able to give to the prosecutor as to why it shouldn't be closely scrutinized under the provisions of the Rome Statute.
Michael, really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much indeed. Michael Lynk speaking to us from Canada.